You've sealed off his power. How dare you! Raging demon!
You dare to actually touch my soul? Since both of us heartily ridiculed that brat before, I'll allow it this once. There won't be a second time.
Captain Forrest here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over both these combatants to see who'd win, more often not, in a crossverse situation. Sukuna from JJK, or Jujutsu Kaisen, for those who are more familiar with the term, versus Akuma from Street Fighter. If you guys are new to my channel, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for further content. Also, huge shoutouts to the HQ squad, massive shouts to the team, they've been a huge help with my videos, so huge shoutouts to the team. Also shouts to Niotic, he was a huge help with the Sukuna section, so much appreciate to him. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead, get right into meat potato things. I'm going to talk about Sukuna, and then I'm going to jump on and talk about Akuma, and then I'm going to go ahead and chop it up in my analysis. So Sukuna is a human from 1,000 years ago, alive during the golden age of Jujutsu, with Gojo stating that people tried to fight him to sharpen their techniques, but it failed. He is called the King of Curses. In the first chapter, just the remains of Sukuna's curse energy was enough to make Megami think it was a special grade energy. This is impressive considering the hierarchy of the grades that they use to indicate the level of power the Jujutsu sorcerers and cursed spirits. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a page out of Drake's book and start from the bottom. In the very beginning chapters of JJK, Yuji Itadori consumes Sukuna's finger. This now meant that Sukuna was now using Yuji's body as a vessel. Now this very same one finger Sukuna is able to easily one-shot this cursed spirit that bodied Megami. Gojo states that Sukuna could wipe out any curse in an instant. Sukuna fought against a special grade curse that was in possession of one of Sukuna's fingers. Sukuna was able to easily block the special grade cursed energy blast while accidentally healing Yuji's hand, which is impressive considering how advanced this technique is. He is able to easily overpower and blitz the cursed spirit as well. It's noted that even though he and the cursed spirit baby is of a special grade, the power gap between the two is incredibly large. Sukuna says that he is going to use true Jujutsu sorcery and uses his malevolent shrine to cut the special grade into many pieces. He tried to go for 3 pieces, but it was still too much for the special grade baby, which again shows the power difference between the two, and after defeating the curse, Sukuna takes his finger back. A weakened holding back 3-finger Sukuna easily defeats Megami, overpowering his Shikigami and tanking attacks from him. He also gives an analysis on Megami at the end of the fight with his powers, and also questions why he ran from the special grade instead of fighting. 3-finger Sukuna is able to easily bully and one-shot Yuji. He explains that even though Yuji is quote-unquote dead, they're both in Sukuna's innate domain, thinking of it as being inside the heart. Jogo notes that Sukuna's power is different than Gojo's. He is overwhelmingly evil. Sukuna at this point in time had consumed 5 fingers. After Jogo force-fed 10 fingers down Yuji's gob, Sukuna became exponentially stronger than before. Sukuna goes on to completely body slam Jogo and blitzes him over and over while easily tearing through his durability. This very same Jogo created an iron mountain which was calced around the mountain to large mountain level plus ranges of attack potency. Sukuna is able to easily dodge Jogo's maximum meteor attack, and Jogo notes that he would lose in a battle of domains against Sukuna. Ryu states that he's seen what surpasses the horizon of sorcerers and cursed spirits and strong fighters is overwhelming aggression and disregard for all and everything else, like a calamity, which is Sukuna. A long time ago, Kenjaku states that Sukuna is the strongest sorcerer that he's known, even 600 years ago after his death. So that's pretty much it for Yuji slash Sukuna. Let's talk about Megami slash Sukuna. So after Sukuna forcefully made Megami consume his finger and became a part of Megami's body, using him as the main vessel, we've seen him being able to punch and literally send Yuji through buildings. Just to give you folks a little bit of context here, Megami resists Sukuna whenever he attacks his allies, so he uses Cleave Spiderweb in this example to cut the concrete and hit Maki, but what's actually stated here is that when he tries to hurt Megami's allies, the body strongly resists him and drops his cursed technique energy output, meaning it specifically lowers the curse energy technique and not his energy output in general. Now in this form, Sukuna demonstrates that he's able to utilize his vessel's curse techniques far better than the vessel's capabilities and makes them more refined and powerful. Sukuna is able to summon Tranquil Deer, which uses reverse curse technique to cancel out Yazuro's curse energy in the liquid metals. It's stated that Sukuna previously used 10 shadows but not fully summoning them, increasing the range but lowering their attack power and rendering them unable to move on their own. But thanks to the amount of curse energy that Sukuna has, that issue wasn't a problem anymore. This time he summoned the bull and the deer in their full form. Speaking of the bull's tactic is to continuously press the opponent as its power increases further as long as it moves in a straight line. Sukuna has used the Shikigami in strategic and tactical ways. Sukuna summons rabbits and drops Myriad Elephant on top of Yozoru to destroy her armor. Sukuna summons Megami's treasure called Mahoraga and breaks the perfect sphere, stating that he's already adapted to her techniques. Lastly, Sukuna and Gojo are able to react and clash with each other in combat. This is very good for Sukuna, by the way, because when it comes down to the speed department, Gojo has some pretty interesting speed feats and other characters in that matter, which they both would scale to or above. There is a feat where Gojo dodged an explosion from a bunch of cursed spirits. There are some ranges for this, however. There is a anime version and a manga interpretation of the calc, but since I'm mainly using manga in this video, since I pretty much read the whole thing, I'm going to stick with manga calculations. So this was calced around Mach 121, aka massively hypersonic. There is another calc where Hakari was able to dodge lightning, which was calced around the Mach 547 as a low end, and as a higher end it was calced at Mach 945, aka massively hypersonic. There are some more lower end feats such as Ghetto Blitzing Panda and Maki, which was calced around the supersonic to hypersonic ranges. There's also the feat of Yuji reacting to piercing blood, which also has a myriad of ranges stemming from the transonic, subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic plus speeds. So pretty much Sukuna would range from the low ends of transonic, moving up to the subsonic to the supersonic and hypersonic ranges to the massively hypersonic ranges of speed. Pretty impressive. So that's going to round up speed. I'm going to go ahead and hop over and talk about some of Sukuna's hacks. So Sukuna has two styles of attacks. Primary attack is dismantle and his secondary attack is called cleave. These can be adjusted depending on the target's toughness and the curse energy level to one-shot them. Essentially, his slicing attacks have durability negation. His attacks also affect the soul, as Sukuna was able to resist Mahito from trying to touch his soul and literally slices Mahito's soul, damaging him in the process. Sukuna is able to utilize fire attacks and also form fire arrows to shoot them at the opponent. Sukuna is able to use a technique called Cleave Spiderweb, which slices up the ground and the opponents nearby, and the attack replicates that of a spiderweb. Finally, for Sukuna's most powerful and deadly curse ability,
Domain expansion. Malevolent Shrine.
Now, there was a mistranslation error about the Malevolent Shrine / temple. Sukuna's domain expansion actually has a barrier. It's just that the barrier is not closed off. His barrier instead simply becomes the airspace and can be interpreted as becoming the space-time because of kanji. When Sukuna initiated a binding vow, it vastly increased the guarantee hits effect area to the ranges of 200 meters. Sukuna narrowed it down to 140 meters in this case, and anyone that is caught in the danger zone gets cleaved, inanimate objects get dismantled, and until Malevolent Temple is deactivated, it will continuously attack all targets while they are in that radius, and the attacks are guaranteed to hit. Sukuna also has regenerative capabilities. He's shown to use reverse curse energy to regenerate from life-threatening injuries. He can take out his heart and be fine without it, and he can also regenerate limbs. So that's going to round up Sukuna. I'm going to go ahead and move on and talk about Akuma and see what he brings to the table. So we all know about the time where Akuma performed a feat where he destroyed an island, right? This feat, in fact, was calced around the 974 megaton ranges, aka mountain level plus. Shouts to Hellfire Productions for this calc. Akuma also scales above the likes of E Honda, who was able to destroy a meteor. This feat was calced around the mountain to island level ranges of AP, which is pretty impressive. So that's going to pretty much round up AP for Akuma. I'm going to go ahead, move on, and talk about speed folks. So Akuma himself would also scale above the likes of Sagat, Zangief, and Karin. Sagat was able to blitz Runpo. This feat was calced around the high hypersonic ranges of speeds. The Ruler's Staying Hand, a move that can travel up to 12,000 kilometers, and Zangief was able to dodge out of the way of it. This feat was also calced around Mach 588, aka massively hypersonic. So overall, as for speed, Akuma would pretty much upscale has scaled to these speed ranges, folks. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to Akuma's abilities and all that good jazz. Now, chi in Street Fighter is physical, spiritual, and mental in nature. Akuma's chi attacks also affect you on a physical, spiritual, and mental level. His attacks, like the Go Hadouken or his Go Shoryuken, like Ryu and his Metsu Hadouken, which his Hadouken is fused with the Satsui no Hado to deal these types of damage. Akuma can also perform the Koretsuha, which is a giant explosion of ki where he engulfs his fist in concentrated ki and punches the ground, erupting the ground with a burst of fire at his opponents to get them caught inside the blast radius. Akuma can also parry attacks, and he can also project a ki barrier which absorbs the opponent's attacks. Akuma can perform the demon teleportation. Akuma's signature move, called the Raging Demon, is one of Akuma's most deadly hexes, as this attack affects the soul and destroys it, and it can also BFR it too. The potency behind the Raging Demon becomes more destructive if the individual soul is plagued with a high degree of sin. It also has death axe properties due to its conditions. Akuma is highly skilled, as he knows a Satsuken rooted in the indigenous arts of karate and kempo. Lastly, Akuma can endure spiritual attacks and mental attacks due to the nature of the Satsui no Hado, and that the Satsui no Hado completely corrupts those who cannot wield its power, and Akuma himself has shown to resist and break out of Nikali, who tried to consume his soul. So that's going to round up both these combatants. I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in a crossverse situation. Okay folks, let's go over some ranges. So if we use the large mountain level plus range for Sukuna, and we give Akuma just his mountain level range, he would pretty much get stomped out. Akuma would not have the AP necessary to take down Sukuna. However, if we use high range scaling for Akuma, then the opposite will apply. Akuma would have the superior AP due to having island level AP in comparison to Sukuna's large mountain level plus, which is a pretty big gap. Now, if we move over to speed, if we just use the high hypersonic stuff for Akuma, he would easily blitz Sukuna. If we only use like Sukuna's lower end speed scaling of like transonic and subsonic and supersonic and hypersonic, those ranges are far too slow. But if we use higher speed and we use both like the massively hypersonic stuff, then easily, depending on what ranges we use as well, because there's some different numbers for the massively hypersonic range. If we go with Akuma being around Mach 588 and Sukuna having the different ranges of massively hypersonic, easily ranging from 121 to Mach 547 to Mach 945. If we use the highest number, then Sukuna is faster, but if we use the middle end for both these combatants, Akuma edges out slightly more in speed, and the lower end speed calc for Sukuna in the massively hypersonic range, Akuma blitzes. He's just way too fast. Now that I've talked about those ranges will play a very integral and key role in this matchup. So win cons. Let's talk about Sukuna's win cons, and then we'll move over and talk about Akuma's. So Sukuna has his Shikigami, which can be summoned to help aid him in combat. The dangerous Shikigami Akuma will have to pretty much worry about mostly is Mahoraga, due to its adaptation. Dude is literally the doomsday of JJK, and of course Akuma would have to worry about the cleave and the dismantle attacks, as they ignore durability, and the last but not least, the domain expansion Malevolent Shrine / Temple, which has incredible range, and due to the nature of how domains work in JJK, the attacks hit you from all directions, so there is no dodging it. So Malevolent Temple slices everything in its vicinity, so Akuma's got to be careful. Now Akuma's win cons, he has chi attacks. Chi attacks can affect the mind, body and soul, so Sukuna would have to be careful if it tags him. Raging Demon is a very solid win con for Akuma. It not only destroys the soul, it can also BFR the soul, and it can also cause instant death. Sukuna would have to be very careful not to get tagged by this ability. Now Sukuna does have resistances to soul based attacks or anyone trying to intervene or interact with his soul, so Sukuna has pretty much some resistances against soul attacks, so you could make some arguments. But when it comes down to the death hacks properties of the Raging Demon, Sukuna is screwed. He has nothing against death hacks, so that would be a huge issue. Now as for skill, Akuma probably has more skill. He's probably definitely more skilled than Sukuna. He has blatant skill feats and having known more fighting styles, and he's a lot more skilled than Sukuna. Hands down, I really don't see me going much over his skill. If it came down to it, I definitely see him being able to, finesse and kick around Sukuna if they were, relative in AP. Just depends on what departments would go off. I'm just speaking for example. So if it comes down to the skill aspect, I lean with Akuma more often than not. Now, another thing that Sukuna has is his curse energy. He can use this to block Akuma's chi attacks, and he can also use reverse curse energy to regenerate any damage he sustains in combat from Akuma. Overall, depending on what ranges you use, this fight overall is very close in certain aspects. If we use them at their peak, Akuma has higher AP, but he's incredibly slow in terms of the speed department. He can definitely take out Sukuna if he gets his hands on him, but even in this scenario, I see Sukuna winning with moderate to high difficulty due to his hexes and the help of his Shikigami. You could make the argument that Sukuna could even adapt to Akuma's chi, the Satsui no Hado, so those things may not even have an effect anymore. Plus, the big win con would be the Malevolent Temple, or any of Sukuna's slice or cleave attacks, which ignore durability, and Akuma has no resistance to such things. So with a good amount of difficulty, I see Sukuna winning in this scenario more often than not. Even if we only use Yuji instead of Megami, Sukuna still has the means to dispatch of Akuma. But if we use the low end feats for both, Akuma would pretty much have the highest speed, and he'd basically be able to still damage Sukuna due to the Raging Demon. He'd honestly one-shot due to the death hacks. Like, Sukuna can't fight it off. He won't be able to do anything, and since he doesn't have Megami inside the vessel, it's just Yuji. Yuji doesn't have a curse technique. Yuji's kind of limited. He's more just so like physical and using like curse energy to deal physical damage. So in that scenario, I definitely see Akuma winning more often than not. But if it comes to like Megami, then Megami definitely would be able to deal with Akuma a lot efficiently. But even still, I could still make the argument that, Yuji / Sukuna would still win, even if we use both at their peak, and even if Sukuna doesn't have the AP advantage, he still has the durability negation which saves him, so he can definitely use Malevolent Shrine, summon his Shikigami, use other things to kind of help him in this fight. But more often than not, I personally gotta give it to Sukuna. But anyway guys, let me hear your thoughts on the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been real. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.